the $777,000 Hoverbike. Is the AERWINS XTURISMO the future of transport, or is it just a billionaire toy? Picture this: you wake up in the morning, you walk outside, not to a car, not to a motorcycle, not even to your helicopter. Instead, waiting for you on the driveway is something that looks like it was out of Star Wars. A machine with giant rotors, carbon fibre bodywork, jet fighter styling, and the promise that you can simply climb aboard and fly. For decades we've been told the future would be filled with flying cars, yet somehow in 2026 most of us are still sitting in traffic. But one company believed it could change that. A Japanese startup called AERWINS Technology decided the future wouldn't arrive on four wheels. It would arrive hovering a few feet above the ground. And they called it the XTURISMO, or perhaps even the Cross-Turismo, the world's first commercially marketed hoverbike, or depending on your point of view, the world's most expensive flying midlife crisis. The idea of a flying motorcycle isn't new. Science fiction has been obsessed with it for decades. From Star Wars speeder bikes racing through forests to futuristic police vehicles in films like Judge Dredd. The concept has always represented freedom. No roads, no traffic, no speed cameras, just you and the sky. The problem has been physics. And physics has a nasty habit of ruining great ideas, because creating something that flies is relatively easy. Creating something that flies safely, reliably, legally and repeatedly is another matter entirely. For years we've seen concept videos, computer-generated animations, prototype drones carrying human passengers, but very few ever became real products. Then AERWINS arrived claiming they'd done exactly that. A real hoverbike. Not a rendering, not a concept, a machine you could actually buy. If you happen to have $750,000 just laying around. At first glance, the Cross-Turismo looks less like a motorcycle and more like a cross between a superbike, a military drone and a Star Wars prop department project. Its design is deliberately aggressive, low, wide and futuristic. The rider sits astride it just like a motorcycle, but underneath sits an entirely different world of technology. The Cross-Turismo uses a hybrid powertrain combining an internal combustion engine with electric motors and computer-controlled flight systems. According to AERWINS, the machine weighs around 300 kilograms, can carry roughly 100 kilograms of payload, reaches speeds of up to 80 to 100 kilometers per hour, and offers a flight duration of around 30 to 40 minutes. It's not exactly London to Paris, but it's enough to prove something remarkable. A human being can sit on this thing and genuinely fly. The moment that really grabbed the world's attention came in Detroit. In 2022, the Cross-Turismo appeared at the Detroit Auto Show, and suddenly this wasn't just another internet fantasy. People could see it, hear it, watch it lift off the ground. Videos quickly spread across social media. News channels picked it up. Tech websites couldn't get enough of it, because for the first time in years, someone appeared to have built something that genuinely looked like a flying motorbike. The footage was extraordinary. A rider hovering above the tarmac, floating smoothly through the air, looking like they'd accidentally driven out of a science fiction film set. For a moment it felt as though the future had finally arrived. Then reality entered the chat, because as impressive as the Cross-Turismo looked, questions started appearing almost immediately. Lots of questions. The first was obvious. Where exactly can you fly it? Most countries have extremely strict aviation regulations. You can't simply launch yourself over a motorway because you're late for work, nor can you casually fly over your neighbour's house or through a city centre. I mean, you can't even fly a drone in the UK or above an airport or over large crowds. In fact, the places where a private citizen can legally fly something like this are extremely limited. Then there's the issue of safety. Traditional aircraft have decades of development behind them. Helicopters are complex enough already. Now imagine sitting exposed above multiple giant spinning propellers. It kind of makes bailing out a bit difficult, doesn't it? Unless you flip it upside down, of course. But I imagine that the flying system is designed not really to do that. You haven't even got a protective cockpit, no crumple zones, and only a few feet from machinery capable of turning serious mistakes into headlines. It's not hard to see why regulators might be a bit nervous. Perhaps unsurprisingly, the internet had opinions, lots of them. Some people saw the Cross Turismo as the beginning of a revolution. Others saw it as a very expensive drone with a seat attached. On Reddit, reactions range from excitement to outright ridicule. One commenter called it a real-life speeder bike. Another simply described it as literally just a big drone. Others questioned whether it should even be called a motorcycle at all. And honestly, you can see both sides, because this thing is simultaneously incredible and slightly absurd. It's the sort of machine that makes you grin the moment you see it. Then came the number that shocked everyone: the price. Depending on the market and specification, reports placed the Cross Turismo at somewhere between around $555,000 and $777,000. For that money you could buy a Ferrari, a Lamborghini, a Rolls Royce, a house in some parts of the world, or all sorts of other things that don't require aviation lawyers. But then again, nobody buys a machine like this because it makes financial sense. It's the same reason people buy hypercars or private jets or £1,000,000 watches. It's about owning something that nobody else has, being the first, experiencing a technology before it becomes mainstream, if it ever becomes mainstream. To be fair to Airwins, the Cross Turismo was never really about commuting. It was about proving a concept, demonstrating what personal air mobility might look like. The company talked about future uses, including infrastructure inspection, emergency response, tourism, and recreation. The broader dream is a world where personal aircraft become as common as cars, where short-distance air travel removes the need for roads altogether, where congestion disappears into the sky. It's a fascinating vision, but it also raises enormous questions: air traffic control, safety standards, insurance, noise, licensing, infrastructure. Because once everyone starts flying, who exactly decides who has the right of way? And then came an unfortunate development. In early 2024, reports emerged that the company behind the Cross Turismo had run into major financial difficulties and entered bankruptcy proceedings. Suddenly the future didn't look quite so certain, and it highlighted a harsh reality of technological revolutions. History is full of visionary machines that arrived decades before the world was ready. The Cross Turismo may end up being remembered as one of them. So what is the Cross Turismo? A revolution? A glimpse of tomorrow? A millionaire's toy? Or simply a giant drone dressed up as a motorcycle? The truth is probably somewhere in between, because even if this specific machine never changes transportation forever, it's already achieved something remarkable. It made people believe again. For a brief moment, the dream of the hoverbike became real. Not in a film, not in a video game, but in the real world. And whether you think it's brilliant or completely bonkers, you have to admit one thing. The first time you saw it floating above the ground, you wanted a go. Because deep down, every one of us has wondered what it would be like to ride a speeder bike. And for a short moment, the Cross Turismo made that fantasy real. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video. Bye bye.